Okay, hi, and welcome back to Cubase SX for beginners. And last time, in part 1, we did an intro to the arrange page area. And I showed you how the snap and the quantize all worked, and the grid, and how to adjust your grid visibly, and things like that. And what we were left with after the last exercise was a couple of empty MIDI parts. Here they are. So, we will go in and have a look at one. Let's go in and look at what it looks like inside the, double click it, key editor. That's what Steinberg call it. I like to call it the piano edit, because hey, you know, whoops, sorry, that is what most people refer to it as, because it's got a piano on the side. Right, let's move this transport bar out of the way. Here we are in our key editor. There's all these menu items across the top. And like with the transport bar, where if you right clicked in the grey frame area, a menu appeared where you could choose to have things visible or not visible. The same is true for this general toolbar area up the top here. You can right click anywhere in the grey frame area around the actual items and a menu appears. And you can choose which things are and aren't visible. And first of all, I'll say to you, if you're working with VST instruments, there is one thing here called Edit VST Instrument. Now, it might be ticked and you can't see the damn thing. I've got this window set to a width that's convenient for the video. I mean, if you're using a large monitor and you've got the edit window full size, you can probably see every tool item that's selected here to be displayed. But if you haven't seen this Edit VST Instrument, tick it, and then what I'm going to do is I'll tick it. It's ticked already, but for something else, I won't remove some of the other things for now so that it's visible. It's off here to the left, out of sight here, but we'll come to that later, because in this episode we're going to add in a VST instrument, and you're going to actually hear what we're doing as well as seeing what we're doing, because we've got it all wired up so we can have a VST instrument play while the screen grab software is working. And we've got coffee, we've got fags. What more do you want? So here we go. So let's leave that for now. Okay, general key edit area. You have the grid just like outside. You have a quantize just like outside. You have a snap button, which I'm going to put on. And when I do put the snap on, when it's off, it defaults to 16ths for the grid. As soon as I put the snap on, this quantize comes into play, and it's currently set to quarter notes. And you can see there's your vertical quarter note markers. Okay. Now, one thing you might have noticed is that there's no physical part, you know, the MIDI part. Let me close this back here on the page, is just one bar long. If I double click and go into the editor, we just see this sort of linear grid. Yeah, it doesn't show the part borders, and to show the part borders, click this icon here, show part borders, and it greys out the rest of the grid. So you're just looking at the piece of data you're actually working on, the block, the physical block of data that you're working with as back on the arrange page. Okay, so what else have we got? Oh yeah, the inside this edit window you can have something called an independent track loop. Okay, I'll just give you a little tip here. If I click on this bars and beats display right in the middle of this part and put the locator there, like that, the locator, the cursor, whatever you want it, yeah, cursor, will default to be wherever you click. So I'm going to slap it right bang in the middle, and then if I zoom in or out on this window, it stays centered because it centers on the cursor. Okay, so we've shown how to hide or reveal the part borders. This is our MIDI block of data. You can drag it out in length, the front or the back, by using these little front and end blocks that have the name of the MIDI part written on them. Okay, and you'll notice our blue loop range is here, just like it was if I close this back on the arrange page, covering one bar between bar 2 and 3. Okay. Now, inside the editor, you can have an independent track loop range, which is really useful. And this is activated with this button here, and this upper and lower numerical display here shows that when it's activated. So at the moment the loop is blue, the same as on the arrange page, and it's showing the same loop range, but covering the whole of bar 2 as back on the arrange page. But if I click this independent track loop button, Well, you may click it, and what will happen is this. Let me just zoom out. Probably what will happen is you'll click it, and this will happen. Okay, I'll just put the left and right track loop locators back there. You'll be like this with the normal loop showing as back on the arrange page. You'll click this independent track loop button, and simply the blue loop will disappear and there'll be nothing. Well, that's because just like on the arrange page, the left and right loop locators like to stack themselves both on the first beat to the first bar. So you can grab the right independent track loop locator and drag it, and the left independent track loop locator and drag it. I'll just zoom in a bit. And now we've got, you notice it's purple. So the independent track loop, on and off, I could extend it just a little bit by a quarter beat this way and a quarter beat that way, either side of the actual part of MIDI data that I'm working on. And I've got a separate loop. If I press play now, it's going to loop round between this left and right locator, which is different because it's a quarter beat longer each side than, if I turn it off, the original loop range. Yeah, so that could be kind of convenient. I'll tell you somewhere where that would be useful. Like, say you're working on a piece of MIDI data, and often if it's like not extremely quantized sort of dance material, like say if you're overdubbing pads or something, pad chords, ambient chords or something, you might be playing slightly before the beat, so that the pad comes in, because it's got a slightly slow attack, it comes in and sort of fits in well with the music. Well, that can be useful, you know, because you might want to extend the front out so that when you hit the independent track loop in here and hit play, you know, you'll capture it. You're just hearing it from a little bit before to give you some contextual sort of information about where you are or something when you're inside the edit. So that's what the independent track loop does. For now, I'm going to turn that off, and I'll set this loop range back to normal. Okay, that's the normal loop range, and that's the other loop range, the independent track loop range. So we got borders, independent loop inside here. When I put the independent loop on, this is the left and right locator information for it. Now, I said that about having that VST instrument edit button showing. To make that visible with this video just at this width of screen, I'm going to knock this out now because we're not going to use this independent track loop. I'm just showing you that it's there so you can use it. And this is the left and right for it, numerical indicator. So I'll right click anywhere in the grey frame, and I'm going to remove independent track loop settings, and they go. And now the whole lot moves up this way, and here is your edit VST instrument button. It's a good thing to have in case you've never noticed it, because if you were using VST instruments and you assign a VST instrument to this MIDI track and you're working on some of the MIDI data, all you have to do is press this, and hey presto, the VST instrument opens ready to be tweaked. And we'll see that in a minute, because to continue with this particular tutorial, we're going to actually have audio of the instrument working in this one. Before I do that though, I just want to walk you through one other thing, a few other things generally to do with this area.